Hello, YouTube. Good evening. Nice to see you, nice. I just got bitten on my hand, that hurts. Just let me put my Bluetooth on. So, if this is your first time to live stream, then I'm just going to let you know how it works. So the way it works is that you can ask questions through Skype. My Skype address is lisacairns12. So you can send me a friend request now, and then you can ask questions in the stream through Skype. And you can either say call in, and I'll call you when I'm ready, or you can write a question and I will answer it. I don't always get to answer all questions. So you if you really want to ask a question, then put call in. That would be the easiest way to get hold of me. What else? Yeah, you can do through Lisa Cairns 12. I can't think of anything else that I need to inform you of. I do these talks every Sunday at 6 p.m. French time, but I don't start till 6:15. So I put it out live, and I put that music the first 15 minutes, and then I don't come on live till about 6:15. What else? The title of this talk today is The Nature of Experience. What does that mean? Who's being complex? Yeah. So, anyway, I like to always begin the talk with silent sitting, so you are welcome to join me in silent sitting. And you can do whatever you like in the silent sitting. I don't really recommend anything. In the past, I've given different meditation exercises, but it's just basically what it is, the silent sitting. So we can begin. I have to get out my big gong. I have to dong my big gong. And we shall begin. Hello. Hello, good evening. Hello, you can write on chat, and I see that Eugene again has put pretty girl. How patronizing. Sleeping on the job, tea from you. Traditionality. You can write other things also. Jake, hi Lisa, hope you have a great week. Danke Jake, I wish you a great week too. I am a woman. Pretty girl, I'm a woman. 41 freaking years old. Pretty boy. Pretty boy. Imagine calling a 41-year-old that pretty boy. Yes, but that if I make a fuss of it every week, then he'll keep on doing it. So what was the title again? The Nature of Experience. Why did I name it that? The Nature of Experience. Okay. So first of all, before we start, a few weeks ago I spoke about the situation that's going on in the world where I can't really say the word. What did I call it last time? Did I call it the bear, I think? Meaning like this situation where lots of people have been getting the bear, and a few amount of people have been going into hospital and dying from the bear. So I'm sure you know what I mean. It's like in all the news at the moment. But if I say the word, then my video gets like me. I think there's like new rules, like if that YouTube and social media aren't allowed, that they're responsible if any fake news is published on their sites. I mean, how the hell do they control that? So anyway, so yeah, I spoke about it, and my partner told me that it sounded a little bit like that I was saying nobody should get vaccinated and we should just let all the old and sick die. I really wasn't saying that. Oh, I shouldn't say that word V. So that was called stick, I think. And I really wasn't saying that, and I apologize if that's how it sounded. I can't even remember what I was saying, but more than likely something along the lines of like, don't make the young and healthy have to take the stick. And yeah, something like that. I think I was most probably going on about pollution, and that people should be doing the Wim Hof and cutting down on pollution and sugar and shit in their diet, rather than forcing everyone to take the stick. Yeah, I know that there's a lot of argument about that, and I really respect everybody's choice. And if you choose to take the stick, I really wish you the best of health. And if you choose not to, I really wish you the best of health. And don't listen to me. Go to your gut and see what your gut says. And that is always the right choice. And I wish everyone the best. And I don't want anyone to suffer a death. Or I think what I was also saying about population control, like if we invent sticks, then we need to do things with wisdom. And I was trying to make the point not that everybody should die from the bear, suffer and die from the bear to reduce population. I just was saying that if we're going to invent sticks, and there's no longer going to be like these mass deaths from viruses, then we also need to take in consideration and be wise from that. So, okay, we're going to invent these sticks which stops us dying from all these viruses. So it allows our numbers to grow and stops the death rate. But then we also need to take that into consideration, i.e. meaning have less babies, not let all the old and sick die. That's not what I meant. Have less of the babas. If we're going to invent V, then we have to be wise and not be humping like rabbits all the time and producing babies, so many babies. And that we're at 8 billion people, and that is absolutely insane to think that this planet can sustain that. And I know that all can sound like I'm saying, okay, let the bear go through society and kill people. I really don't want people to suffer and die from it, but it's just that if we're going to invent sticks, we have to do it with wisdom. So it's like, okay, we're going to invent this, it's going to stop lots of deaths. Then we need to think, what does that mean? Be wise. It means we have to stop having so many kids. But if you've got 8 kids, I totally respect that, and that's beautiful, and it's no judgment. I'm just saying, as a whole society, that conversation needs to come into play. Yeah. So that's one thing. So that's out of my head from from weeks ago. I can't even remember what I said, but it was something along the lines. I forget. What else? The nature of experience and non-duality. So what is the nature of experience? So the nature of experience is that there is just this happening. And this is free. This moment is free. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to switch it on in the morning. It's here. It's free. It doesn't suffer, this moment. Like, have you ever seen this moment suffering? The person suffers, but this moment doesn't suffer. And this moment has always been here. This moment has been the constant of you. So your suffering, your ideas, your personality structure, everything about you has come and gone. But this moment hasn't disappeared. This moment has always been here. And this moment isn't one particular thing. All things are constantly changing in this moment, but this moment is always here. You never escape it. You never get to run into the past or run into the future. You never get to switch it off. It's just here. You don't get to switch it on. It's not like you wake up in the morning, you switch this moment on. It's just here. And it's not at night time it gets switched off. It's just that there is nothing appearing, so it seems that way. But this is your constant. And what does this moment make up of? What is this moment made up of? So in this moment there is perception. So there is a consciousness of it happening. There is something that recognizes it's happening. If there wasn't consciousness, then it would be blackout. So there is a conscious recognition that's happening. And that always comes with the moment. And there's also this sense of being. You could call it this amness, not I am as in I am something, but this sense of being. And they always exist in the moment. They've been there when you were 2, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. They were always there. So this perception and this sense of being and this moment, like what is, what's happening. And that's been the constant throughout your life. You've never managed to escape it. Even when you're in a terrifying situation or with different people or the other side of the world, you've never escaped these three qualities, we'll call them, that I've described. This perception, this sense of being, and this moment. And you could say that they're all one thing, but I'm just splitting them up for now. That's what's happening. And you've never affected this moment. In this moment, you, the person, the body, has had different feelings and different thoughts and different experiences, but it's never actually managed to affect this moment. It believes it does, but it hasn't actually ever managed to affect it. It's had these thoughts and feelings and ideas that have come and gone in this moment. So this moment has enveloped these, but it's never like this moment has never been penetrated by, say, the suffering of the person, the pains or the pleasure. They come and go, or the amount of money you've earned, or the stories you tell yourself. So this moment is the constant. What is the constant. And you can't get to what is, because you are what is. You can't practice your way to this moment because you are what it is. You also can't get out of it. You can't leave this moment. What can happen in this moment, though, is a deep daydream that you are the person, and this contracted energy into the body, this narrowness into the body of that it is who you are. And that to me is what's called suffering, this contracted energy that feels like it is this separate body-mind mechanism that is separate, sitting on the sofa, interacting with this separate world out there. So you are inside this body, you are your thoughts, your feelings, your idea, your consciousness. You're inside the body. In relationship to the world. But who is in relationship to the world? There are always thoughts and ideas and energies appearing in the nature of experience, in what is. It's not somebody's ideas or belief systems. Let me just make sure that everything's working. Yeah. And you are free. Like this you energy is illusory. It's not really real. And at some point there can be a shift in that. When you feel contracted and bound to the body, what happens is you seek to be things. So you seek to be an identity, you seek to be someone, you seek to resolve your karmas. So they're so important to you, you seek to keep them, to hold on to them, to complete them, to fulfill them. And this is never ending and will be disappointing, inevitably, because you're never going to make it to the place in which the person wants to get. So where is it that you want to get to now? What is it that you're trying to protect right now? So the person wants to be something. Like, what's it trying to protect? Who are you trying to be? And you find that not through thinking. Partly you find it through thinking, but you find that also through the experience of the body. The emotions of the body, the sensations, the contractions. And you can use the chakras, I've talked about that in many of my talks, to distinguish them better. Like what it is you're holding on to. what it is you're letting go of, or not letting go of, running away from. None of it's true. So the things that you think you need to get to and the things that you think you need to avoid aren't true. Your freedom is always this moment. Always. Nothing matters. Like nothing matters. There's nothing that you can get to that matters. I mean, there's matters on the human world, but ultimately nothing matters. Like you're never going to arrive at this idea of a destination. You're never going to get to this place that you think is relevant, that you think you need to get to. Okay, we can take questions and answers. So if you have a question, then you can ask on Skype. My Skype address is Lisa Cairns 12. So if you want to call me, just put call me, and then I'll call you. And calls get priority. But just put call me and don't put anything after it. Yes, you can ask a question, Dupe. Do you want to call? Let me know if you want to call by putting call me, Dupe. Hi Lucas. Hello Lisa. My question is consciousness real? Is consciousness yours, mine? I don't even know what you mean by is consciousness real. Like what is real and fake? Like all of these are ideas that we can think of. Like this is a real world, this is a fake world. But it's what's happening. Like this is what's happening, and real and not real is irrelevant. There is perception happening. There is looking happening now. That is the way it is. Like there is looking happening, there is experiencing happening. Whether it's real or not is a really weird question. How can we even think about that? We just know it is. We don't know if it's real or not. Maybe you could elaborate on why that's important to you. Like what is it? Like, so some teachers say the source of everything is no thing, so it's beyond consciousness. So they even say that in Buddhism, which is true in a way. So you could also say like consciousness is like the portal between nothing and everything, because if you didn't have consciousness, then there couldn't be the experience of this. So nothingness couldn't have an experience of everything. So you could say it's a portal, but they're one and the same thing. Nothing and everything are this, and consciousness has to be here in order for experiencing to happen, and there's never not experiencing. Have you ever experienced non-experience? It has to be. But yeah, maybe you could just elaborate on why it's important to you. Hi Thomas. Good evening. Hi Vadi. Hi Lisa. Tony Parsons says that after death everyone will be liberated because the me will collapse. My question is, if someone commits suicide, will they come to liberation? Hey Vadid, I don't think I want to talk about if someone commits suicide, if they'll come to liberation. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. I really appreciate your question, and I'm so sorry if you're having experiences or feelings of suicide. And I really recommend and suggest, if that is the case, to go and seek personal help, to go to a psychologist, to phone a hotline that deals with suicide. Because when you're feeling suicidal, that is something that will go. It's like this feeling contracts and all these energies contract, and you feel like there's no other option. But then it will pass. There will come this point where you do feel like there is options. So often suicide comes when we feel like there's no other choice, and it's our way of getting out of something. It's like, okay, I haven't got any other choice, so I'm going to take control and kill myself. Thank you for your question. Hey Dennis, dear friend, a note of gratitude. Thank you so much for sharing your silence live. You are radiating joy and bright shining light into the world. Your friend, aka I'm Pretty Boy in Kentucky. You're Eugene? Or you're just a pretty boy? Pretty boy. Oh, thanks, Dennis. That's a really lovely message. Ja. Danke. Hey, Bia. So if you want to call in, please call me, and then I will call you, and you will take preference. Hey, Thomas. Hello, Lisa. I've asked this before, but I don't think you've answered. My question is regarding the dissolution of I or me, or the sense of oneness. The masters say that this I must vanish. However, they themselves still seem to have a sense of I. I have seen many of them speaking and acting in personal ways. So if the person has to vanish, then why even the masters still appear as individual people? Another way of saying this is, in order to take any kind of action, I must think of I or me. Otherwise, this body-mind cannot survive. This is so confusing. Could you please clarify? Yeah, thanks, Thomas, for the question. So in the beginning, like when you're talking about this and when you're teaching this, you have to strip the person back to nothing in a way. Like I did that with Roger. Like completely stripping back to nothing, to seeing that you're not your talents, you're not your behavior, you're not your thoughts, you're not your feelings. So it's not that you stop having them, that this body stop having them, but internally there is a disidentification with everything of the body and everything of the mind. And then there is, you could say, like a re-identification with everything, with what you actually are and always have been. But then, like you say, there has to be a coming back to the character in a way, so a melding of these two worlds, because you're absolutely right. If there isn't a personal character there that has wants and volition, then the body would do nothing but just die, maybe, not even do anything. So there has to be some form of character there and some form of identification with the character in order for there to be functioning. But you have to swing in the beginning the opposite way. So you have to go really extremely into there is no self for that to be really seen, that there is no body. And there's nothing that you can get that will free you. There is nothing you get that will free you, because who is this you? Who is going to be free? Thanks, Thomas, for your question. Hey, Carola, thank you. Thanks, Carola. Hi, Lisa. Speaking about true awakening, do you feel that something massive happened or that actually not much happened? Inspired by the book Perfect Brilliant Stillness by David Cairns. Yeah, I feel like something really massive happened. I don't know if that's a very good teaching, though. I'm sure this may be better to say that there's not much happens. But yeah, it radically shifted a lot of things here. It was huge. Non-duality is the freedom. It's the most profound subject there is. Nice. Thanks, Joyful Silence. That's it. That's all the questions. Okay, I can go to YouTube. Let's see. Hey, Lisa, thank you for your sharing. Can you explain what is the difference when you meditate on I am and emptiness? Is there a difference, or is it the same door? The same door to where? Where do you think you're going to go? And who do you think is going to go through a door? But when the deconstruction of the person's happening, often the person feels like it needs something to do, and this helps settle the person, so the person focuses on the I am or the empty looking. And both are beautiful. But just realize that that person that feels like it's doing those meditations is not actually going to arrive somewhere, because it doesn't inherently exist. And who is the one that believes it can or can't do things? It's all ideas appearing that come together, making it feel like you're something that's moving in time, where you are this moment that's free and alive and supersonic. Lisa, this is from Willie. Do you think that you will be nice to other people when you are realized? It's a very passive-aggressive question, Willie. But this is from LT. Is being enlightened similar to feeling of being high? I can understand why people would say that, because often when you smoke marijuana or take acid or hallucinogenic, the sense of self gets removed. So you aren't able to perceive yourself very much. There might be some form of it, but often you can't. There is simply everything happening. But what's also happening when you take drugs is lots of pleasure is being released. So that's confusing. And what the mind often focuses on is not the absence, but what it gets. So it focuses on the pleasures. Please, this is from Sanye. Please talk about reincarnation and rebirth and how the cycle ends, if ever. Please talk about reincarnation and rebirth and how the cycle ends, if ever. Yeah, I don't know about those things. Like, I know about it from what I've been taught, but like, so in the Buddhist group that I studied with when I was younger, they talked about rebirth, and rebirth wasn't reincarnation of a person as such, but it's rebirth of qualities, habits, conditions. You can kind of see it through genetic lines, like you get there is a rebirth of your grandparents or your great grandparents or your ancestral line. Yeah, it's happening all the time, the rebirth, in a way. But it's not personal. That's what they always iterated. So there's not like a person inside of that. There is habits and conditions which are passed on, which is what the illusory person is habits and conditions. But what also happens when the person is born and after a few years is that there is then a claiming of these habits and conditions. So I suppose I believe that the illusory I that's claiming the habits and conditions can end once and for all. But yeah, it's confusing. Why do you ask that question, Sanjay? You worried about living on life after life? It's quite a scary story they sell in Hinduism and Buddhism. Okay. Hi Lisa, is witnessing or being conscious also arising from the ego? When it's an activity by the person, yeah. But there is a looking that's happening that's not an activity. So when you wake up in the morning, there is looking happening and it belongs to nobody. Like, it gets switched on before you. So the looking happens, so the experiencing happens, it gets switched on. It's not really switched off, but it's just that the world comes back into view, but we'll just call it switched on. And this consciousness doesn't belong to anyone. And then often what happens after waking up is then the thinking mind begins to like scramble around thinking, who am I, who am I, who am I? But there's something that knows that. Also right now, your personal awareness is focused on me. But notice that without any effort, consciousness is also perceiving the wall that's behind me, the clock that's behind me. It's not naming it, it's not labeling it, it's not thinking about it, but it's also automatically perceiving it, and it's absolutely impersonal. And that consciousness is who you are. It's what's in every moment. That consciousness is empty, it's no thing, and it's everything. You could also say it doesn't really exist as a thing, as an as a something separate from no thing and everything. But notice that there's something that's looking out, there's something that's experiencing that is absolutely impersonal, beyond thoughts, beyond interpretation, beyond what you know. It's free and it's alive. Hi Lisa, do satsangs or working with guides have any use if there is no self to change or arrive or have free will? Hey Eric, thanks for the question. Guides, the thing is there's nothing wrong or right with guides. They either appear in the life or they don't. And they can seemingly be really helpful on the personal level. But as you get more and more into non-duality, it's like cutting off your own head. So you lose more and more concepts and you lose more and more ideas. So then the idea of a guide, the idea of a teacher begins to disappear. The idea of a you begins to disappear. The idea of you traveling through time begins to disappear. But initially it might be going through, in the apparent story, it might be going to the satsangs, speaking to people, having a guide, but then eventually your mind begins to see beyond all of that. So useful or not useful is an irrelevant concept. Like, they may appear to be useful, more than likely they appear to be useful, but in the end it's an irrelevant concept, because who is this you and where are you going to get to? So the idea that there is something like you, a solid entity called you inside the body, and it's going to arrive to somewhere in the future. When really all there is this moment, vibrant and alive and here and ready and open. This is it, baby. This is this moment, speaking, looking, hearing, feeling, watching. This is it. This is all you ever want. This is all that's ever wanted. We have some more questions in Skype. So if you want to call me, I would love to speak with someone. So please call me and then don't put anything after that in Skype. My Skype address is LisaCairns12. Have you, as Lisa, done shadow work or in general work on the personality structure to have this shift in perception? I don't know if the shadow work led to this shift in perception, but I certainly did a lot of shadow work. And I presume through doing the shadow work, it cut a good amount of seeking. So I'm sure that, like, in some ways that needed to happen in this case. And then after the awakening, there is a continuation of the shadow work. I still have shadow stuff coming up. It's part of the personality structure. But certainly beforehand there was lots of shadow work, and I've spoken about that in many talks before. But still now there can be issues that come up, like past issues. Like, for example, in talks, in live talks, in retreats, for example, like sometimes I would say that I sometimes get a little scared of some energies of the participants that arise. And in me, what it does is sometimes, like that fear, when I really go into it, it's like a fear of being killed. It's like fear of like stones being rocked at you, thrown at you. And I'd say that's like shadow work. Like that's part of the ego structure, not the ego, like the personality structure or the ego structure. It's difficult to talk about because Ramesh used to call the ego structure the character. So, and the character has these types of things in it. It couldn't function if it didn't. The seeking energy, so the identification, is when you believe that's true and you seek to avoid it. So it doesn't necessarily not moving away from it. So someone's being aggressive with me in talks or something, it doesn't mean not moving away from it or putting boundaries up. It's more like being afraid of that energy. So when somebody's seeking to avoid that energy, they might not be able to admit it. Like I don't have any issues admitting that I feel sometimes this energy of like fear that people are going to kill me. Like especially like when you really like hit on somebody's defenses or something. And so it's just sitting with that, like a fear in the belly. like I can connect it to like being burned to the stake or something, like being a witch and being burned to the stake. So this sort of thing always occurs. It's part of being human, and that it's not about not having it, it's about not being afraid of it, like not running away from it. Like there is going to be fear when you're in a group of people, because if you don't fit into it, they are going to chuck you out. And if they chuck you out, if you get chucked out from society, you will die. But it's just a feeling. It's not important. It's not who you are. It's not who they are. It's not truth. It's not fact. It's simply an emotion that comes and goes, a sensation and experience that comes and goes with no importance. And there's nothing to hide. You don't need to be somebody that's really brave. So often you get the idea like you need to be really brave and like the hero character that's never afraid of anything. And when I'm enlightened, I will never be afraid of anything on the human level. And I will always be like, "Rah!" And I will be stronger than everyone else. And that's not what it's like. It's like being more human, being more radical. Like for sure, like after 10 years now, especially sharing over the internet, like some people get lots of hate for you. And it's not about being like, oh, I don't care. It's it doesn't affect me that much, the general comments, but sometimes like when there's somebody that's really on your case of sending you lots of hate, or when they're at your retreat, it's just allowing that feeling, allowing that vulnerability, nothing to hide. That is what comes up in the system. Thanks, Lucas. I know that's most probably really disappointing, because when you're seeking, you have this idea of becoming like this perfect person, and to find out that it doesn't mean that is really disappointing. And also when you're seeking, like you want to be able to project onto the teacher the perfect person, because then that also bolsters your ego. It's like, I'm going to be a perfect person like this master, and I have the best master in the world, or the best teacher who's like all these things. And to find out that they have vulnerabilities as well is like highly disappointing for your ego. But when you begin to see it less personally, it's like just energies. They're energies, just like the tree blowing, the sun shining. They mean nothing. They aren't you. They aren't an identity. They're not here forever. They come and they go, and they don't mean anything. And they're just as they are. And the less identified you are with them, the more willing you are to admit it. But it's not always safe to admit it. Like, you know, if I'm with somebody, like I remember a talk in Sweden a few years ago, and this guy began to get very aggressive with me. And so in the talk, what I did was I just moved it on to the next question. So I didn't sit there and say, I feel like I'm feeling a little bit scared that you want to kill me now. That will be a disaster. Can you imagine? They'd get so angry. How fucking dare you? Yeah. Like, my character is not enlightened. Your character is never going to get enlightened. If you seek that, you're in la la land. It's mostly about power if you're seeking that, because you want to be the perfect person in comparison to other people. Because perfect is always comparison to other people. Like, I'm less afraid than you, I'm more afraid than you, you're more afraid than me, I'm more enlightened than you, you're more fearful than me, you're Hey, Eric. So is there anyone that'd like to call in? Much prefer to speak to somebody if they want to call in, but I will answer Eric's question while we wait for someone to say, call me, call me. Lisa, it's Eric again. I keep having to make new Skype accounts. Do satsangs or working with guides have any use if there is no self to change or arrive? Yes, I can call you Eric, but I already answered this question in the chat, didn't I? So yes, I can call you Eric. Oh, sorry, Yoop, I'm just about to call Eric. Hey, Eric.
Hi, Lisa.
Hey. Could I just get you to turn off your video so I've got maximum amount of like streaming? I'm not sure if it takes much for me to download your video. Thank you. Nice.
You're welcome. So thank you for taking my call again.
Yeah, with pleasure. And thank you so much for calling. I really appreciate it. I can imagine it's a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it can be. But I asked you that question about satsangs and working with guides. Both of those things have come into my life recently. I found a satsang teacher and I found 2 guides that I work with. And I find it to be entertaining and fun, and I think that it's useful, but I think that it also kind of strengthens this idea that realization or enlightenment is some kind of thing that's outside of the ordinary that I can achieve, and it creates this drive to change the way that I function. And so I'm trying to get their message that all I really need to do is see that there's nothing to change and there's no self to change. But
so, and
it's
is it your ego having a like ego? When I say ego, like is it some ego or seeking energy, whatever? Like the ego doesn't necessarily need to be seeking energy. Like the character, like are you having a reaction to them because you don't want to change yourself, or because it hurts you when they point these things out? Is that why you're beginning to think about that? Because often like the confrontation of a teacher or the confrontation can sometimes like lead you to begin to think, oh, there doesn't need to be anything to change as a defense.
Maybe. I think my teachers help me to see that there's no self, and I get glimpses. And then when I'm not working with them, I try to get the glimpses back. And I start judging myself that I feel stuck in the me and stuck in seeking.
Yeah, so rather than thinking like more like, do you need guides or not guides, what I would do is then I would look at this feeling of getting stuck in seeking and this, what was it that you said? Like, did you feel stuck? Did you say like feeling like you need to get, feeling like stuck as you and that you need to get those experiences back or something?
Yeah.
So to me, it's always like working with what you have. So it's like it's like not thinking too much about the story and in line and whether this is good or not, that's good. Like you're working with those people and that's what's happening, and that's beautiful. And then when you're having those feelings, when you're by yourself, it's reflecting on those feelings. So they come up, feeling like you're not good enough or you've done something wrong or that you can't do it alone. Seeing where you feel those feelings in the body and then connecting them to the past. So connecting to when you first heard that story in your life.
And is that something I can do, or is that just something that arises? Again, I'm stuck on this question of what can I do versus what's just happening.
Yeah, so there's the appearance of you that will do that. So there is an appearance of you, and that is what's happening. And then as you deconstruct more and more, then there will be more just happening, and the appearance of you will still happen, but it will become very thin.
So,
the appearance of the character.
that means that the me could still feel jealousy, anxiety, and sadness, but it wouldn't identify with that?
Yeah.
So,
The main
so
focus would be the stillness and the emptiness. When there's identification with those feelings, then there tends to be a going in time. So you have these feelings that are intense, and then there is a going in time and lots of seeking about them. Sometimes sadness and anxiety can be a result of seeking, but often like the base feeling of them comes up, and then there is seeking to try to avoid them, and then this makes the identity. It's like you get consumed in yourself trying not to feel anxiety or trying not to feel sadness. And then,
right.
and then what begins to happen is the stillness and the silence in this moment becomes more in focus, and they appear, but they don't threaten you anymore. They don't threaten the essence anymore. They don't threaten like freedom or safety, because it's seen that who you are is that freedom and safety, and these are things that come and go in that freedom. When you're identified with them, then they feel like a threat on you. They feel like they're happening to you. They feel very personal and that you need to solve them. I wouldn't get too worried with this idea of like trying to work out how to act from what is and act with a person with volition. Well, you feel like you've got volition, just go with it.
Okay.
And do things, and just keep exploring and keep being really radically honest about what's happening now. Like, what do you feel now? Like, what's happening in your experience?
Yeah. So the seeking energy and the identification is something that can become thin or fall away by itself, and it's not in time, and there's nothing I do to influence it. So for the time being, I know that saying that I can allow is like an action, but maybe not interfering with my emotions.
I wouldn't even think about that too much. Just so come back to this question now. Like, what is the experience happening right now for you? Like, what's happening? Like, describe it. You can describe all types of things, like what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're hearing. Like, what's happening in that consciousness now?
Oh, I guess I feel some butterflies in my chest, stomach. I feel like I have a bit of an emptiness, like a hole that needs to be filled in the same area. Yeah, there's just this movement of thought trying to find something like an answer. Like when I do thought songs, I feel happier. And then when the thought song is over, I feel lonely again, like I need something to fill that hole.
Yeah, you're really cutting out, Eric, but I'll just reply to that. But maybe you can't speak so much because you're like like it goes like a robot, like that, 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 that.
Oh,
So it's really just so that loneliness, just really allowing that into the experience. So when you're in satsang, there is a merging with what's happening. So you're hearing that, and in a way, you could put in a crass way, like you're becoming very present in satsang. So there's a merging with everything. And then when you're by yourself, you become less present, and then the feeling of loneliness arises, and you want to get rid of that. But it's just allowing that in. So there's loneliness appearing, and exploring that. So where does the loneliness appear? Do you remember when you first felt that? Like, what does the loneliness want? Like, it's all okay. Like, embracing the experience rather than trying to get away from the experience. Like, these feelings aren't as bad as what we think they are. Normally what we do is we're always running away from the loneliness because we're terrified of that feeling, and we're terrified of what that means for us. So for an example, I think of a family member that experiences a lot of loneliness. What they do is they spend most of their life talking. Like, so, like excessive talking to others, or like always feeling their time, so watching TV, like always feeling their time with words, because deep down they feel a loneliness, but they don't even have a perception that that's what is happening. What they feel is just a tension. They're not even conscious of the tension. So what it manifests to them is like this desperate need for interaction to maintain a sense of self. But as you become more conscious, then you can begin to go more into that. So for that one person that I'm thinking about, like, first of all, what they'd need to do is notice that they're feeling tense prior to all this verbal communication. Then after they begin to notice that they feel tense, like, why are they feeling tense? Like, go into where they feel tense, and then begin to dissect that, like, what does it feel like, the tension? And then eventually they go deeper and deeper into it, and then they see its loneliness, and then beginning to go back through your life and noticing, when did that begin? When do I feel that? Noticing how it's made you act in certain ways, the character act in certain ways. And just in loving it, just embracing that loneliness. Like, it's okay, it's not going to kill you. It's a sensation that's appearing. And it's not who you are. Who you are is the watching of it. Who you are is the consciousness, which is also the room, the windows, the walls, the ceiling, the breeze in the trees. I'm looking at trees outside, so I keep speaking about them. So it's just allowing these things in. There's nothing to run from. So rather than getting too mental about non-duality, it's like hearing all the stuff about non-duality because it's pointing you deeper and deeper. But rather than being too mental about it, it's always coming back to what is the actual experience now, and breaking it down and seeing the common denominator is always this moment, the perception and the sense of being, the sense that this is, it's like you could say the I am, the empty looking, and this moment, and they're all one and the same thing. You could like say it's nothing and everything. Like, that's the common denominator. That's what's always been here. That's your home. That's your freedom. That's what you've always looked for. And then in that, all these experiences come and go, and none of them are you. You aren't someone that's lonely. There is loneliness appearing. You aren't someone that needs attention. There is the feeling of needing attention appearing. It's not you. It's appearing in this. You can try and speak again if you like, Eric, and we'll see how you sound, if you're like a robot or not.
Can you hear me now? Is this okay?
Yeah, you can. I'll stop you if it isn't.
Okay. So the sense of me or identification is something that just arises in all of that, like just another thought, another sensation, and it doesn't need any more importance than that. It doesn't need to be differentiated from the other thoughts. Can I think of it like that?
Could you say that again, please?
So the sense of me, the sense of me is just a thought. It's just a thought like every other thought, and it's not more valuable.
Also, and also a feeling as well, yeah. Not more valuable or meaning anything. But don't get too mental about it. Keep coming back to what the body is experiencing as well. Okay. And what's happening in your body now. Just bit by bit. You don't have to act non-dual. You don't have to be non-dual. You don't have to force this to happen. Just all it requires you to do is keep going to the depth of the experience now. What's happening now, 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 now. And if that's insecurity, that's what's happening. If that's fear, that's what's happening. If it's joy, that's what's happening. And it's all happening in this one moment, this one endless moment. And none of it means anything. Our mind is always trying to like make a story about it, put it into a person, put it into time.
Yeah. Well, in my body, I just feel insecurity.
Great,
I
that's great.
feel,
Not great that you feel insecurity, but great that you can recognize it. Most people are insecure because they've lost their self, who they truly are. So they're insecure about their sense of existence. They feel very small in comparison to the world.
yeah, I feel insecurity and I feel a fear of abandonment, which
Mm.
I feel with everybody, really. Um,
Mm. Mm.
so it's difficult to get relief uh,
When did
in
you and when do you remember first experiencing that feeling of abandonment?
um, I was adopted when I was 5 years old, and I was
Mm.
conscious of that experience of not having my birth parents anymore. So
So you went from your
it's
birth
been,
parents to your adoptive parents.
yes, yes.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, I can imagine that's very traumatic. So it's just holding that. You weren't ever abandoned by life. Life didn't abandon you. Life was there prior and after. Consciousness was there prior and after. The sense of I am was there prior and after. But in life, it feels like a person abandoned you. But
Yeah,
like, so it's just seeing that that's not really who you are. So that's a feeling that comes up. That doesn't equal you. It doesn't have to remain, but it also doesn't have to go.
yeah. There's this deeply ingrained belief that I am a bad person because my parents left.
Mm, mm, yeah. And just recognizing that whenever it's appearing will have amazing healing transformation. And also see it like, so you recognize it appearing. And when it appears, it will seem very convincing because you'll be with someone, to say with me, and then there might be a tension and you might not be conscious of it, but inside it, it's saying she's going to abandon me. The more that you can recognize and see that that's not true, I'm not going to abandon you. People aren't going to abandon you. So just seeing that that's a feeling that's arising that isn't true. But also don't push it away. Don't ignore it. Just allow it to be there.
Yeah, I'm in a relationship, um, and I've been with this person for a year and a half, and she's really great. She's very good at reassuring me with that fear of abandonment. Uh,
Mm.
and I've been finding that it, like you said, not pushing it away and just verbalizing it, talking about it,
Mm.
saying to her, I have a fear of abandonment and I just want to say that.
Yeah, that's so
That's
great that you're
enough.
doing it. Yeah. And this is really healing in itself, when you can have these relationships and say these things and then see that, like, so it's your worst fear, but that when you say it out loud, the other person isn't going to abandon you. That's so healing that they can hold it. You see, if you don't acknowledge it, so if you were to be unconscious, then it would act out. Maybe it would act out as trying to control the other person. Maybe it would act out as holding back from the other person, cutting off from the other person, pushing the other person away. But if you can just admit it when it appears, it will bring you closer. And it hopefully will open the other person up, because everybody has fears. It's just different levels of it. And also seeing that it's not true.
Well, you know, what I love, Lisa, about what you're saying, is it's so similar to a lot of modern therapy methods right now, where it's about facing the emotion,
Mm.
allowing it to go through you,
Mm.
and just pure recognition of what is. I think
Mm.
pure
And that,
recognition of just what is like really healing.
yeah, totally. And that it doesn't define you. You are not somebody that was adopted. You are not somebody that was abandoned. Like right now, who you are is this moment, And that is a story of playing in who you are. And that is a story that your character identifies with, but that is not who you are. You can say it's like a story of the body, but the body isn't who you are. Who you are is what is. So it's like allowing the feeling 100%, so coming into full humanity, but also seeing that that's not you at the same time. And that, to me, like for me, I had quite a bit of trauma in childhood. And to me, that was really, really healing. That really made profound difference for me. To me, therapy without non-duality, it can have an effect, but it doesn't really penetrate, because there has to be the recognition of what you are beyond the story to really like allow that to heal. So otherwise there's, there's not
I agree
really the
with you.
fully meeting it. You're not really fully meeting the feeling and the sensations of it.
I feel like we need another word that is not non-duality, because I think that experience is something that most people have at some point in their life, but non-duality makes it sound foreign, like something you have to try to get. But
Yeah,
I
you're beginning to
feel
cut
what you're
out again,
saying.
Eric. Now, have you got a microphone in? Have you got a headset in?
I'm on speakerphone.
You're on speakerphone. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but you're like you're going like a train, like you know, like this. Yeah.
Oh,
Could be. It could also be my internet, but it sometimes it's better and then it gets worse again.
I'll stay by the window. Well, I lost my train of thought, but what I want to say is your message is like really applicable to so many situations, and what I love about it is the meeting of what is and the acceptance of the person and all that they are. I think that that is just so humane and such an expression of love,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you
Nice.
being a figure who shares that message.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks, Eric, for saying that. Like, I really appreciate that, and it really is never about getting rid of the humanity. It's absolute embracing of the humanity. It's through the embracing of the humanity, the separate self disappears. It's like through being fully human, you become nobody. It's beautiful. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Eric. Thank you so much for calling in and speaking with me today. I so appreciate your honesty and openness. I feel like everything you shared will be so helpful to other people listening.
Oh, well, thank you too, Lisa. I really appreciate you, and I hope we talk again sometime.
Yeah, nice. Thanks, Eric.
Okay,
Lots of
bye.
love. Bye. Oh, it's so beautiful. I'm not sure how much other people could hear Eric because of the audio was flickering. But I so appreciated his expression. I have been listening to you for years and never heard of shadow work. What is it? Shadow work, hi Mark. I don't use that expression very often, but it basically just means like the darker side of the person. Like, so when somebody's like really identified what they would mean, like Like they could be being really nice. Like, hey, have a great day. This is my interpretation of shadow work, by the way, Lisa's. I'm not sure if it's everyone else's. It's like, hey, have a really great day. But underneath that, like deep down, when they get into their shadow, they're actually feeling very vengeful. And if they spoke from the shadow, they'd be like, I hate you, stick it up your ass. And then underneath that, there is like maybe like a hatred of humanity or a hatred of parents or something. So that is shadow work. So the shadow work that I described in myself tonight was like sometimes when I'm holding retreats and somebody's very aggressive, like the hidden stuff that happens in me, even though it's not so hidden to me, but it's like still, I don't necessarily express it in the moment, is like sometimes I can be afraid of people's anger, and then deep down in me, like when I go into my belly, it's like a feeling that they're going to kill me, and it's like a connection to being a witch in the past life, you know, being burnt at the stake. It's not true, but it's like a feeling that comes up. So you could call that like shadow work. So it's like someone starts behaving in a certain way, and then on my deepest level, it manifests of a fear they're going to kill me. If you understand. What it might manifest as in the retreat is like an avoidance of that person, or like trying to navigate the person away. I don't think I would be really, really fake, like have a nice day, and want to kill the other person back or something. That might have happened when I was younger, when I hadn't done loads of work on my shadow. So it's like you know, acting these things out, like being really friendly, but deep down being like, yeah, I don't know if I'm great at expressing shadow work, but maybe you can look it up on the internet. But I know what people mean by it. Yeah. Nice. Okay, that's enough for today. So there's lots of questions that went unanswered. So you can write in next week. I'm not sure if I'll definitely do a stream next week because it's August, and sometimes I've taken August off from sessions, and I sometimes take it off from live streams as well. But tonight I felt like doing it. So make sure that you check in to see that I'm doing it. I have got a visitor to stay next week, so I might not do it. Yeah, so you can check on my website. And then if I'm not going to do it, I often post on my YouTube channel, like no stream tonight, a couple of hours before. Yes, I send you lots of love, and I wish you everything, not just one thing, 2 things or 3 things, but I really, really, really wish you everything. Yeah. Yeah, lots of love. Thank you. Bye.